everyone, and welcome to Life Hacks for Working Moms, the podcast that helps you overcome the overwhelm, embrace the chaos, and cultivate a life you love. My name is Megan Strand. Thanks so much for being here today. I have to confess, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with cooking and meal planning. I enjoy cooking and feeding my family healthy meals, but it turns out this is something you have to do every single day, and I get burnt out easily. And, as you might have noticed, food is expensive and it just seems to be getting more so. For me, it's just kind of overwhelming to manage all of the logistics as well as the finances of this whole eating thing. So my guest today happens to be a master at both meal planning and shopping on a budget. Her name is Erin Chase, and she is so good at this that she started what is now a successful blog called $5 Dinners. Hey, Erin.
Hey.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to get to share with you guys. Yay.
Well, I'm going to ask you sort of a strange question because you started out your sort of professional life as a missionary in the Dominican Republic, and you said you learned a ton there about meal planning and budgeting. So can you tell us just about that first?
Sure. So I left pretty quick after college and went overseas. I was overseas in the Dominican Republic for 6 years. And, when you go there, I did my best to immerse myself in the culture. I speak Spanish fluently. I ate a lot of rice and beans and fried chicken and tostones. I immersed myself there, but there was still these moments of just kind of when you're going through culture shock, you just need to eat what you want to eat, right? What you're used to eating, quote, American food. And so I had to teach myself how to cook, in a foreign culture using all real raw from scratch ingredients. And then when it came to grocery shopping, I had to shop with, Dominican pesos. I couldn't give them my debit card for Chase Bank in the United States, or I didn't even have a debit card. Actually, I had one at the very end when we lived there because of the role that I had at the school, but I didn't use it personally, right? And so I had, Dominican pesos to spend. And so I, learning how to plan and shop and cook, from scratch, planning, because I had to walk to the grocery store and, carry my groceries home. So that I had to be very intentional with planning those things, right? I probably shopped once-ish, maybe twice a week. And granted, it was just me, so I wasn't shopping for a family, right? But learning those skills, I think, really was helpful. And then bringing them back when we moved back to the United States, I was married then and had one little guy was born. My oldest was born over there. So we moved back and had my second son here, and then third and fourth as well. So, I brought all of those lessons and things that I learned and started applying them here in the U.S., coupled with the fact that here in the United States, there are all kinds of ways you can play, quote, the game of buying groceries, right? With the couponing and the sales cycles and all of those things. So when you combine, meal planning, using cash, and, budgeting with the kind of the stateside games, put all that together and you just have this
lovely formula. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something that really stood out to me about your meal plans, because when I found your site, I was like, this is awesome, because not only did you clearly understand what it meant to be a busy person trying to, not spend a ton of time on meal prep. But when I looked through the recipes, I was really pleased to see that they were, all kind of from scratch sort of stuff, which is how I like to cook. I'm not going to go, get a box of rice-a-roni and call that dinner. So that makes a lot of sense that kind of was your foundational learning of how to prepare food was in the DR, with all of these whole food ingredients or whatever. So I love that piece too. When people come to you, and I mean, I'm sure this happens a ton, but when they ask you for, your biggest tip on saving money and time for doing this, what's the first thing you tell them, just sort of philosophically, that they need to sort of start thinking about?
So, there's lots of building blocks, and I've kind of alluded to some of them here, between, writing out a solid shopping list, having your recipes for your that your family likes. And, I think though, when you get down to it, if you're going to focus on one thing, or the first thing that I would say to focus on is first look at the circulars, the store ads, whatever you want to call them, and see what's on sale. There are apps that have store ads. There are, you can get them emailed to you every week. If you sign up for the store's email newsletter, you can just sign up to have the weekly emails, or the weekly ads sent to you. You can look on blogs. You can get the newspaper. I mean, they're everywhere, right? So look there, see what's on sale, mainly meat and produce. If you're from scratch cooking, if you want to get the box of whatever, you can do that. We don't, like you said, because of food allergies. I've carried that kind of from scratch because of that now. And then plan, 4 or 5 meals that you can have that week based on what you see on sale. So if you see pork tenderloin, that's a big piece of meat. You're not going to, well, unless you have a ginormous family, you're not going to eat all of that in one meal. So I would chop that up into 2 roasts and then slice off a couple pork chops off of a big tenderloin. And that's 3 meals worth. So we might have pork roast at the beginning of the week, pork chops at the end of the week, and I can put the other one in the freezer, right? So you kind of have to chicken breast. The chicken, I feel like, is the most popular meat. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But this seems to me that's the case.
I agree. Yeah.
Just reading what people say and our own family too. When you see that on sale, you've got to plan to make meals that week using chicken and then buy extra to stock up on so that in a couple weeks you don't have to pay full price, further down the road. Because chicken, the sale price on chicken is generally more than half, depending on the store, of the regular price versus the sale price. So
what do you think the biggest mindset change people have to make is when they're doing this? So if if it's circulars or what have you, like I feel like I'm the sort of person, Erin, that goes, like, I would take your meal plans and do everything exactly as you said it for like 2 weeks, and then I would get fatigued. So what are the biggest mindset changes that you feel like people you kind of have to make to be able to do this efficiently?
Sure. I think that you kind of mentioned and alluded to it at the beginning of the show. Like, you have to cook every day, most days, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, 5 to 6 days a week, you have to cook. Like as a mom, I'm thinking most of us are moms, we have to cook and provide and nourish our families, right? And so like when I get frustrated, because it certainly happens, and I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, I just go back to the fundamental, like, it is ingrained. Not to sound, this is very traditionalist maybe, but as a woman, as a mom, like, there's this instinctual thing that I have to feed my family. And I go back to that when life gets nutty, when I, forget to start the slow cooker one day or whatever it may be, right? There's so many things that, happen, especially, when we're overscheduled and our kids are doing a bajillion things, and you're like, there are some days where I have literally 20 minutes to get dinner on the table because we have to then go to basketball practice or whatever, even this summer, right? So it's like, okay, that's going to have to be a sandwiches night because, oops, we spent too long at the pool, life happens, right? But I think but when you get into those moments and you get frustrated and you get tired, you just have to go back to, this is what I have to do. Like, I have to feed my family, right? And I, just sort of, you have to almost talk yourself out of the negativity, if that makes sense. Or I do. I have to talk myself back into, but these are my boys and I love to feed them, right? Well, even when life gets nuts, right, I still love to feed them.
I think for me, the biggest stressor and the places where I feel most like angst around it is when I have 20 minutes and no plan. Like, so I downloaded this fantastic meal plan off of $5dinners.com. You should all check it out. And it was a Costco meal plan shopping list for 20 meals for $150. Is that right? Did I say that right? Yep. So I didn't have time to do the full meal plan, but this weekend, I made a couple of the recipes because I wanted to try them out before I talked to you. And it was so nice because I had made them this weekend. So last night I pulled out something that I had frozen because you do these great instructions about how to prep things in advance and freeze them. And it was just so nice to be like, I know what we're having tonight. We're going to have lemon pepper chicken. And guess what? Everyone in my family loved it. So I love having something to go to in the freezer. And I love that it's not just a chicken breast, because then I have to do all the thinking around what to do with the chicken breast. But so I loved having that resource. So for me, the angst comes from like the 20 minutes and no plan. So I think that's one of the values that you bring, Erin, is you do a lot of that planning and prep for people. Would you talk a little bit about sort of how you approach those meal plans? The one I downloaded was for Costco. It looks like you do a lot of warehouse shopping type meal plans, but can you talk a little bit about your approach to, shopping at a warehouse?
Sure. So these meal plans, I kind of came out of nowhere almost 2 years ago now. Oh my word. So I found myself shopping at Costco for one reason. Well, the reason I bought the membership in the first place was we have a dairy allergy, and their rice milk that they sell at Costco, which is my preferred non-dairy milk, is ridiculously cheap, like over half as expensive or half the cost as you would get at regular grocery store, even Walmart or somewhere like that. So I bought the Costco membership that membership pays itself back for me just in rice milk savings in like 2 months, right?
Wow.
So just the quantity of milk that we go through with 4 kids, right? And 3 of them have a dairy allergy. So, between cereal and baking and cooking and all of that, we go through it quickly. So anyways, totally. I found myself shopping there, obviously for more than just rice milk, but then it just became this sort of game of like, well, what do I do with all this chicken? And here's 8 cans of diced tomatoes and a bunch of black beans. And like, what do I do with this? And it actually really happened. I hate, this word I feel like is so overused, organically. Like where I would be like, oh, I'm just going to, here's 6 pounds of ground beef. 2 pounds are going to turn into 2 meals worth of spaghetti sauce, and two will go into sloppy joes, and 2 will go into a beef and vegetable soup, right? Like, so I brown it all up at once, divide it all up, and I'd throw it in the freezer. And I was doing that for, probably 6 or 8 months. And then I thought, I have these moments of, I wonder if, right? And that's how $5 dinners even started. I wonder if I could make meals for $5 or less. I wonder if I could put together, I wonder how much it would cost if I tried to get 20 meals together into the freezer. So I pieced it all together, and it ended up being about $150. And so now I just, take the bulk ingredients that they have and mix and match it all together. We have a number of plans that are similar for different grocery stores or for regular grocery stores. We have one for Fresh and Easy. We have one for Aldi. I know not everybody's a warehouse shopper. Not everybody needs bulk, right? You can obviously use these at any grocery store. You just have to adjust the quantities a little bit. But yeah, like you said, that's kind of how I started shopping there, and how I use the food up to make it so easy for me, right? And same story. It's just nice knowing you don't have to think about it. I feel like busy moms don't realize how nagging that is. That what's for dinner question,
right?
You don't have to worry about that when you've at least have it all put together in a bag in the freezer. It's done, right? Then you just have to reheat it, right? You don't have to think about it all throughout your day. I mean, there are some days if I'm not even there, I have those days where I don't know. I know I have something, but we still don't know what we're going to have. It's just like that. What are we going to eat for dinner tonight? It's crazy.
It just
how
hangs
that
over your head.
Yeah. Hangs in the back of your brain and just like stresses you out. You don't even know it. Right.
Do you tend to prepare things in advance? Like you were just saying, so like, for example, the Costco meal plan that I downloaded was 20 meals, and the way I think I would approach it is if I'm going to be that intentional about making 20 meals, I think I would do the whole thing at once and just freeze them, as much as I could. Obviously, I would eat what for the week what I needed. But is that how you tend to approach dinner? Do you tend to kind of say, okay, I'm going to take a Sunday and spend a couple of hours and do some prep, or how do you personally approach meal planning and preparation?
It's a combination for me. It's part putting it all in, and then for being a food blogger, I have to do lots of extra kind of cooking too, like on the fly in the moment cooking. So for me it's a combo. But really having everything in the freezer makes a huge difference. Like today is a recipe development day, so this afternoon I have a couple of different recipes I'm going to mess with. Right, so it kind of depends on the day. Yesterday was a freezer meal day. It kind of varies and depends if I need to do like a pantry challenge, or just we'll spend 1 week just cooking entirely out of the freezer just to make more space, right? So for me, it's kind of a combination, but it really just makes a huge difference in my own sanity to have those meals prepared and ready to go, so that we don't have to think about it. Or if I, today we're going to be at the pool until 6, right? We're taking friends or whatever. I can start a slow cooker meal that I just pull out of the freezer and put in that morning. And when we come home from the pool, we're all exhausted. This is the summertime, right? That's what we do. Or if it's after school, sports or whatever during the school year, homework then sports or homework then activities or whatever, you just can come home and you stay out of the drive-thru and don't spend $30 on
right. Yeah, that's the easy thing to do. Well,
yeah.
At least in my family, that's the easy thing to do. And
Totally
at the end
agree.
of the day, when I have like no willpower and somebody's like, "Let's have Burger Bill," I'm like, fine. How much time do you think realistically? A lot of people listening to the show have full-time jobs and are parents, and everyone is busy. But how much time realistically would you say people could spend maybe on a weekend or a day that they have free to do some meal prep in a way that would kind of set them up for a couple of weeks? Like, I guess in my head, this weekend, I only made 2 of your recipes and it took 15 minutes maybe. But in my head, if I were going to do it for more meals, it would take all day. And right. I don't know if that's realistic or not. Like how much time would you think people, let's say the Costco meal plan, if you're going to make 20 meals, how long would that take you on a Sunday, let's say?
So I actually video that live for you. If you wanted to assemble it all at once, I offer that as part of the plan. And so I will give you...
I didn't see that.
You do that in this order, right? You assemble everything in this order so that you're not wasting any time standing around waiting for the beef to be browning or whatever, right? So I actually tell you the fastest way to do it. And then I video it live. Like my video guy is videoing me for 2.5 it's usually 2 hours. I think the longest one was 2.5 hours. Some of them are shorter. It just depends on the type of recipes. If all of the slow cooker packs where you're just dumping everything in and throwing it in the freezer, there's a little bit of veggie chopping going on. But those are quick, right? And so my goal is so that you can have a month's worth of meal in 2 to 3 hours. And obviously it depends on how fast you're in the kitchen. If you have a helper, my older son can help me do certain things. And so it would vary, but my goal is to make it as fast as possible. And then you can watch the videos with me. And I go at a normal pace. I am not speed chopping veggies or anything crazy, right? I'm just in my kitchen chopping stuff, so that it's realistic, because that's what I want. I want you to see that you can do this, get this many meals together in this amount of time. Like when I say each plan's a little bit different, but when I say it took me 2 hours and 15 minutes to put together 20, and I don't have the page in front of me, but it generally doesn't take me much longer than that. It depends how much of it's pre-cooked as well and how much of it's kind of like that dump recipe.
Right.
But my goal is to make it as fast as possible for you.
Which is great. And it's nice that it's realistic, because I feel like, 2 hours is doable. 8 hours seems like,
Oh yeah,
totally
no. I don't have 8 hours to even sit there with my video guy and tape this kind of thing. There's no way. Yeah.
Nobody has time for that. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. And then can you give us a couple of go-to meals that your family loves that you're just like, okay, this is a solid for my family. I know they're going to love it. I know it's easy. Can you give us a couple of things that you really enjoy?
Sure. I love having, I have an arsenal just because I like to cook and I'm always making different things. I have an arsenal of things, but we go back to curries a lot. I think curries are really easy. They're flavorful. My kids, I have one spice aversion child, but I usually take it on the mild side, and then my husband and I, and then actually my 2-year-old is like the spice master,
really?
Right? He loves the spicy
That's fascinating.
food. So I can put together, I have a chicken pineapple curry on the website that's kind of sweetish because of the pineapple. So the sweet helps balance the spice a little bit. But that can be on the table in 15 minutes. You start heating up the coconut milk, you put in the chicken, you dice it all up. So it's real quick. It cooks really fast because the chicken pieces are so small. And then it just soaks in the flavor in that short time cooking. So that's one that we all love. Everybody will eat that. Serve it with some rice, whether it's pre-cooked and reheated, or I prefer not to do minute rice, but you can have white rice done in 20 minutes. Or if I think to start the brown rice in the rice cooker ahead of time, then it's just ready when dinner's ready. And then I have another slow cooker curry recipe that's really fantastic with sweet potatoes and chicken. It's really good. That you can freeze it. You can freeze that ahead as well. Sweet potatoes freeze well, so you can freeze that ahead, which is great. And then we love all the other traditional things. I like to do baked chicken. Well, in the summer we usually grill it, but a baked potato chip chicken we just did is really delicious. Where I take the last of the potato chips in the bag and roll them up, or crush them with the rolling pin,
right,
and then bake them. I mean, it's really bake them on the chicken. It's really so just. I don't know. We like all kinds of different food. I think that part of the reason my kids are such adventurous eaters is because I'm always cooking something different. But I also know that's not realistic for everybody. And so, I recommend, making a list of 5 or 10 meals that do 2 things. 1, everybody's going to eat it. And 2, and like it, right? And 2, that you don't have to think much about. We kind of talked about that a little bit ago, but just having those in the back, even putting them in your pantry or into a recipe binder or hang them in your pantry door, right? So when you open the pantry, what do I eat for dinner? Oh, we could have this. We all like these 3 recipes or whatever.
Well, and I think that's absolutely true. And that's a great thing to do. And as we were talking before we even got on the podcast today, I think it's nice to try new things that, again, I don't have to think about. So I think that, coupled with the fact that you approach all of this really as a game and do so much of this work for us, I think is awesome. And so absolutely check out $5dinners.com. Check out the meal plans. There's a ton of recipes online. Erin has done an amazing, amazing job. And Erin, this has been fantastic. And if people want to learn more about you, I just mentioned $5dinners.com, but are there other places online that people might find you?
Yep. Find me there. You can grab the newsletter there. I'll send you all kinds of goodies and information, and a coupon code for a meal plan if you want to get one of those. You got to sign up for the newsletter to get that though. And we have, I'm on Instagram, $5 Dinners, just like the URL, Facebook. I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place. Okay,
so it's not hard to find me.
I will absolutely put links to that in the show notes, as well as the recipes that you mentioned if they're online. And I'll also put a link to the Costco meal plan that I just downloaded. I got sort of the super deluxe version. It was $5. $5, people. This is a seriously good deal. So definitely check out Erin's site. Check out all of her great recipes. And on behalf of Erin and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us today for this episode of Life Hacks for Working Moms. And I'll talk to you next time.